economic activity section of the NPR, you say that GDP grew by 1.7% in 2025, essentially flat on a per person basis. Are you saying that basically immigration has been able to prop the Canadian economy up? And broadly, in terms of the cuts that we've seen in immigration, how do you view that filtering its way through the economy?
Well, if you have more people coming into your economy, you have more workers and you have more consumers. So that'll grow your economy. If you slow immigration, you've got less new consumers coming in and less new workers. And so, yes, we are seeing the impact of that. It does mean a lower potential growth. It means sort of the run rate the economy can grow without causing inflation is lower. If you look at our projection, actually we have very low population growth over the projection. And, potential growth is about 1%. So it's mostly productivity. You do see some, what that means is what's increasing consumption is mostly increases in consumption per person. So it's not being driven by adding consumers. It's being driven by each person's consumption going up on average.
So, Mr. Bernier, let's start with you. The governor is saying that the growth in the Canadian economy is, quote, largely supported by immigration, end quote. That runs contrary to everything I've seen in the last several years with our numbers of immigrants coming in, both legal and illegal, the pressure on the job market, the pressure on healthcare, the pressure on the housing market. What is he talking about?
Is a little bit like his colleague at the Fed, like he said also, I think this week, he had a question about the US dollar that was going down and what do you think about that? And he said, I cannot comment. I'm not in charge of that. It's monetary policy. You're in charge of the value of the dollar. Your job is to keep the purchasing power of your dollar. So it did not answer the question. And what you have today with our, governor of the bank is saying that, to have economic growth, we need to have more people. No, sorry about that. That's, economy 101. To have growth, you need investment. You need first investment, you need production, and after that, consumptions. So what is saying? We need consumption first. No, we need production. We need investment in businesses, investment from the private sector to create jobs. And we don't have investment in Canada because of the bad economic policies coming from the federal government. So immigration is not the cause of the lack of productivity. Actually, that's the reason why we are not productive, because as you know, the federal government opened our borders to cheap labors and for big businesses. So it's not good for Canadians here because it's more difficult for them to have a job. And when you do that, you give an incentive to big business not to invest in more productivity, in robotic, to be more productive. No, it's an easy road. So that's why at the People's Party, we want to have a real moratorium on immigration, put Canadian first, and have a good economic policies for boosting private sector investment.
Dre, I get when the governor says we need immigration, you can make that case because Canada's birth rate is under 2.1, which is the replacement level. But on the other hand, I would argue in the last 5 years, the sheer number of immigrants that have been coming into Canada, it's not sustainable. And I'm just wondering what's your take. I would imagine if you're a banker, you're all about numbers, but is he being a little too politically correct here? God forbid you say anything negative about immigration, you're going to be nailed to the wall. Is that what's driving this statement as opposed to fiscal reality? And to Mr. Bernier's point, investment coming into Canada?
Well, ideology always seems to be what's driving the statement when we're trying to get to the truth of things. The typical 2 + 2 = 500 is what we're seeing here. Everyone who has eyes to see what's going on can see that there is an issue happening here with mass immigration. And I think the other thing that is about being politically correct is just saying immigration and not, making any separation between illegal people coming here too. So that's all coming into here. We are not having the opportunities. It's not like there's a whole bunch of opportunity here that our people who live here are Canadians. We have more Canadians. What would that be? We have more opportunity than the amount of Canadians who need jobs. That's not what's happening. We're bringing in more people. The population is increasing, but the economic output isn't.
And it's kind of funny, Mr. Bernier, some 10 years ago, Justin Trudeau said a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. Of course, he was saying that in reference to defending those Canadians that wanted to go abroad and commit acts of terrorism. But I would argue when it comes to immigration, it's more like the George Orwell phrase, paraphrase, all Canadians are equal, but some Canadians are more equal than others, because Blacklock's reporter just 2 days ago came out with a report, something like $885 million a year, almost $1 billion, going to free services for refugee claimants and illegal aliens. And we're talking about free transportation, free healthcare, free eyeglasses. I mean, how do we find money in the Treasury with our debt and deficit to have this platinum benefit plan for people who aren't even Canadian citizens?
Yes, you're right about that. The fact that Trudeau said a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian, no, I don't agree with that. Because if you're an immigrant and you're coming to our country and you don't integrate into our society, you don't share our values, sorry, you're not a Canadian. And so what's happening right now with multiculturalism, we are telling them, come to our country. We are welcome. And by the way, if you don't share our value, it's okay. If you don't speak English, it's okay. If you don't speak French, it's okay. You won't be able to integrate into our society. You will live in ghettos, like in Surrey, like in Brampton, Ontario. That's okay. So that's not my Canada. That's not Canada. And so a Canadian is not a Canadian. You're a Canadian if you're coming here and share our values first. Second, about, the aging of our population. That's an old argument that we need more people because the population is aging. First, yes, the population is aging, but the immigrants who are coming are not younger, they're old, and that's data coming from Statistic Canada. So they don't participate to lower the middle age of our population. So they're old like the Canadian population. So we don't have really very young immigrants because of a lot of them are coming from reunification of family. And you have a brother, sister, uncle, granddad, grandmom. So and the other fact that we need more people for economic growth, no, that's the real reason what they're saying that is we need more people because we need more people that will pay taxes to be able to support, the pension, because as you know, our pension system is in Canada, it's a scam. People right now, young people are paying right now for people who are taking their retirement. So we don't have real money in the bank for that. So we need more young people that will pay for these older guys like me when I retired. But, the solution to that is just to have social services that we can afford. Yes. So all that, that's why we are saying no more immigrants. It is destroying our social fabric. And I was supposed to be a racist 7 years ago when I said that. But, I must admit that I was right.